Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session, OpX, Create Your Operational Experience, presented today by Dinora Sanchez, our subject matter expert, and David Hansen, our senior project manager. I do have a few housekeeping items before we get started here today. To drop a comment or question, please go to the red Live Now button in the upper left side of your browser. This will open the session where you can scroll to the bottom and click on questions, where you can enter your question or comments for the presenters, and we will address those questions at the end if time permits. If you are having technical difficulties, you can click the question mark at the bottom right-hand corner. This will give you a window with ideas on troubleshooting. You may leave this session at any time by clicking the three-button menu in the right upper corner. Once you click, there is a prompt to leave the meeting. This will push you back into the conference lobby. Please don't just close your browser, because that will give you issues trying to get back into the lobby later on. So make sure you hit those three buttons and click Leave the Meeting. Please visit our Ratings and Reviews module on that left navigation bar as well. There you can write a review and rate the session. We do encourage feedback so we can make adjustments along the way this week. I'd also like to make a quick plug for our sponsors and exhibitors. Please visit the partners in our virtual space where you can start a live chat and meet with our awesome sponsors and exhibitors. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our presenters here today. So we have Dinora Sanchez. She is the Asset Management Subject Matter for Experts. She currently serves on APWA's Asset Management Knowledge Team and AWWA's Asset Management Committee, and previously co-led the Sustaining Asset Management Subcommittee. Previously, she was the Asset and Operations Manager at the City of Sugar Land's Public Works Department, where she was responsible for corporate asset management program, GIS-centric work order system, call center, and customer service, along with budgets. Dinora has earned a certificate in asset management from the Institute of Asset Management. She received her Bachelor of Science from Mercyhurst University in Erie, Pennsylvania, and her Master's of Public Service and Administration from the Bush School of Government and Public Service at Texas A&M University. Her co-presenter today is David Hansen, a Cityworks Senior Project Manager. He's been here as a project manager since 2000 when he was hired full-time after working for 1 year as an intern. As a project manager, David is primarily responsible for the management of Cityworks implementation projects, both on-site and remote, which includes the responsibilities of assessing the client's requirements, project schedule development, data collection, input, data installation, along with training and coaching. He also assists with client support when needed. He is experienced in the use of SQL on a variety of database management systems, including Microsoft SQL Server and Oracle. Additionally, David provides input on the Cityworks software and database design for himself and the clients that he interacts with. Before he joined Cityworks, he was trained in software support, system management, and network administration while working as a help desk technician for Flowserve Corporation. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it on over to Dinora and David.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is truly an exciting session for us. And I don't say that just saying like I'm excited, but I'm really excited. I know David is too, and I'm just going to say Bridget is too. She's just required to now. So if you don't mind advancing a slide, David, please. And there we go. So this is our safe harbor statement. If you go one more, please, David. So this is obviously, I think most of you became familiar with our safe harbor statement just last conference. And so obviously, as a publicly traded company, we now begin most of our presentations with the safe harbor statement. I'll quickly read through this like Looney Tunes style. The following is intended to outline our general product direction. It is intended for information purposes only and may not be incorporated into any contract. It is not a commitment to deliver any material, code, or functionality and should not be relied upon in making purchasing decisions. The development, release, and timing of any features or functionality described for Cityworks product remains the sole discretion of Cityworks with Second Systems LLC. Whew, out of the way. Good. Moving on. That's the fastest I've ever read in my life. Let's see. So hopefully y'all have heard about OpX, and that's why you're here. And so this is really intended to give you an overview of operational insights. Obviously, we're limited for time, so we're going to only make a couple of highlights here. Keep going, Dave, please. And so right off the bat, we want to start out with just showing you what operational looks like. Operational, or OpX, sorry, wrong application, OpX. And what that looks like, this is something that if you've used Project Manager before, you're probably familiar with that look in Office. But this is OpX, and we're starting out with projects. We do have the different views available that we had in Project Manager. The exception is that we used to have just a projects view. That is no longer available because we decided to, you get the listing of projects, but now you also get that budget view, which is your default one. And then you also get to look at all these activities, different activity views. So for example, work orders, service requests, and if it's no shocker there, it's a pretty exciting thing to actually have this extend to PLL cases and inspections. So for the first time, OpX or projects in general is going to be able to extend to PLL cases and inspections, and you're going to be able to see that in this application. Okay, very, very clear distinction that would not be available in Office Project Manager. You won't get to see those PLL cases and inspections. So we also have the ability to filter and search through those projects. So obviously the look and feel is very similar to maybe what you've seen in Respond. So there's different table look, but you can filter, you can clone, you can create a new project from there. And the filters also are not only by category, because in this view, as you can see, there is no hierarchy. We're working on it. But there is a way to assign categories and be able to filter those views. So you see that drop down there. Also, you can filter to only show projects that you're a project manager for, but also you can show any inactive. So previously we showed you inactive just in red, right? Now by default, you don't see those inactive projects unless you check that box here. I think this is actually a video, David, so if you don't mind clicking, it should actually start playing there. And so, oh, I lied. It's just a screenshot. But that's going to be your landing page, and you can navigate back and forth from there. So this next one, we really wanted to show you how, where it's the project details summary. We wanted to show you just an overview of that page. And I know when I was talking to clients about what improvements they wanted to see to projects, it was, hey, there's all this white space on that project details page, and I have to go to different pages to get information. And now you're actually getting to see all the information in one location, with the exception, obviously, asterisks, of attachments and permissions. And I know that was a bit of a hang up, especially with permissions, that they were separate, not in the main page. There is a way that we worked it out so that there is a reminder that if you have not configured permissions, you will get a notification at the top right. And you can actually then click on it, and it will take you to permissions to configure. So we're trying to make as many safeguards as we can there. And then attachments obviously is also separate, but you can see we have the general details panel we used to have in Project Manager, but now we have work activities, we have related contracts, we have asset details, new, right? We have financials, purposely not called costs because we have costs and revenues now that we're bringing in the PLL. And then lastly, we also have the comments section. And you see to the far right that we also have a map for the first time, and David will be covering more of how those interact. So with that, let's see, what's next?
So yeah, the next one is security and permissions. So previously when we just had projects, it was kind of a, whether a user would have access to this or not. And one of the new things that we prioritized when we were setting this up is we now have permissions. So if you have a site where you're using AMS and you're familiar with the security permissions we had view, add, edit, and delete permissions. We've kind of changed that a little bit. We tried to make it a little more user-friendly. So in in here, and I believe, yep, this is a video, so I'll go ahead and start this. So when we go into the project permissions, what you'll see here is you'll see that we have groups. So we can add permissions, specific employees, security groups, or we can even apply a permission to an entire domain. So you'll be able to select this, search, you can narrow that down, and you can add someone in. And now we also have the person who creates a project has ownership of it. And in those instances where the person creating this is not the person that needs to necessarily own it, we can transfer those permissions. And so what you'll see here is we have the ability to change this. So you can have kind of a view and edit, but we also have custom permissions in here. So you can choose from the available permissions. And a lot of these we have where you can alternate between viewing certain items and editing other items. So when you select one of those groups and you give them permissions, you can choose, maybe we want them to be able to view certain elements, we want them to be able to edit others, but it's something that we felt like was a really good evolution of how security works and would also make it a lot easier for end users to be able to use. I know I definitely have thoughts on when I train people on how security works in AMS, I've kind of found a good way of explaining it, so I think it makes a little more sense. But what we tried to do with this one is make it a little more intuitive, so it didn't require as much explanation.
Yeah, so and as part of that too, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The data migration tool that will really facilitate that coming from Project Manager, right?
Yes. So on the next page we have assets and map. So this is another one that we have a video of, and as Denora mentioned, having the map in there was not something that was present before. So now what we have is we have the ability to view assets, and what you'll notice is we have different types of assets here. So when you enable the map view that is relatively new to our plugin architecture in Cityworks, so we have the side by side, and what this allows you to do is it allows you to see assets, and it's interactive, meaning that on the left-hand side, you can choose the type of asset. So we had sewer gravity mains, now we're looking at street segments. And when you select those, you'll notice that they are highlighted in blue on the map. So if I want to see where this hydrant is, I select it, and it shows up highlighted here on the map, which is really nice because we didn't have this before. I mean, you could see the work orders that were associated with something, or maybe even an inspection that was associated with it. But now this encompasses not just work orders and inspections, but it also will bring in assets that are related to PLL cases. And what I think is even cooler about this is you can even add assets in here that are not necessarily part of any of the activities. You can now have assets that are associated specifically with the project itself. And so what you can see here is we're setting those up, we're selecting those, and when we add those assets in, we can go ahead and start adding them directly to the project. What I like about this is that this reduces the amount of friction in using Cityworks. So when you're in a project and you want to add an asset, and as you can see here in the video, if you even want to go directly to editing an asset, you can go directly to it because you have all of the map tools directly available in OpX. So we've tried to make this, like we've done with all of our new plugins. What we're trying to do is take all of the lessons we've learned from the past and apply them to how we are using Cityworks now. Now, one of the other things that we've added in, oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, David. If you don't mind going back one slide, one of the last things in that video that you saw was actually how you can actually, using the editor tool, from the Esri native editor tool that comes with the map, you can actually now also set up what we like to call project silhouettes. So you'll need a layer for that so that you can actually store those projects. But by doing that, you're enabling it down the road also to use URL with it, right? So all of this has project queries that are being run with this. You could share those out, take those out beyond just OpX or Cityworks and into some of Esri's platform. The project silhouette is the ability to really be able to designate that project area. And that would also then be added to the assets panel there. So that's another exciting one, and I can't wait to see how clients really take advantage of that feature.
Yeah, that's that is a long-standing request. So there are certain clients that I'm wondering if they're in this presentation. I guarantee you, like if this was live and in person, we were all together in the same room, there's at least a few clients I know of that would be clapping right now. So yes, so the next thing that we've added in here are rich text comments. So if you've used these, whether it's in Cityworks Office or in Respond or Storeroom or any of our other modules, you're going to be familiar with a lot of this functionality. So we have the ability in here to add comments. They are time stamped so that you can sort them. You can look at them and have the newest comments at the top, or you can reverse that and you can look at all of the comments in sequential order. It allows for mentions. So if you want to have a conversation with someone, but you want to have it as part of the record rather than a sidebar where you're having those conversations via email or some other chat application that is not immediately available, this is one of the great things you can do is you can have these conversations in here so you can have mentions. And like with our other comments that we have here in Cityworks, we also have the ability for you to enable editing. So if you would like to have that, I've worked with a number of clients, and it's really interesting because every client has their own use case, and it's always so compelling because I remember the first time that we added this in, that we added historical comments in there where it wasn't just one big giant block of text. The question was, hey, is this editable? Because this goes, when we go to court, this whole thing comes with us, and we need to be able to testify accurately and say, no, these are not editable. And then you go to another client site and they say, no, we need to be able to edit these, and here's why. And you'll notice if it's been edited here at the top of that screenshot there, it'll show that it's been edited. So you can have the comment history. It also allows you to call attention to things. And it just gives you an overall record of what's going on with this project. Nora, did you have anything else that you would like to add there?
No, I'm just, it may seem like a small thing, but I think it's pretty exciting just to be able to actually have that running tab, right? It's no longer, like you said, that big chunk of words, but truly as we're really trying to evolve that into a project, really the way that you track projects, right? Status updates, all that, it's documented and it can always be looked back historically. So I think and the mentions to me are always fun, but that's not one way to really get people's attention on it. So I'm obviously biased, but yeah.
Well, and just as a side note, I did have someone ask me how much text those can hold. Like, hey, they were worried that they might have someone that has a long comment that they want to put in there. And without getting into the nitty gritty, essentially the details on this, those fields where we put comments have enough space to hold the text of War and Peace 7 times over. So unless you've employed Tolstoy as one of your field guys that's going to be adding comments in there, and he really gets on a roll, you should have enough to put whatever you need to type in there. Now, financials, this is something that we've talked about before, and there is a video on this one as well. But before we get into that, as Denora mentioned earlier, this is not just costs. So we do have the costs. If you have costs on service requests, work orders, or inspections, those are in there as well, but you'll notice that we've got a line item in there for the equipment, labor, and material breakdown. So just like we have on work orders where you can have estimated versus actual costs, you can see that breakdown of estimated versus actual, and not just in general, but by individual section. So it allows you to make a comparison. And one of the things that this now incorporates, now that we've brought PLL into this, is this allows you to see the costs, or not, sorry, not the costs, wrong word. You can see the revenue that's coming in. So you can see the fees and the payments that are coming in as part of your associated PLL cases. So over here on the side, we have the financials. You see the breakdown, but at the bottom, if we had PLL cases associated with this, you would see the fees as well as how much has been paid as well, which is really nice because for those of you that work with PLL, you know, whether it's a building permit, whether it's a business license, or whether it's even a code enforcement case, there's a lot of needs based upon how those fees work. And so if you've worked with those, this is a really nice tool to get an overview of all of those that are associated there. Now, what Denora is also showing you is that you can see these items that are in here, and you can select those items, whether it's a work order or service request, and you can jump directly from the project to viewing the actual case. So that's what we're looking at here, is we're looking at a case that is associated with this project, and we were able to go directly from one to the other without having to, if you've ever done that, if you've ever written the number down so that you can go to the search window and type it in and find it, you'll be able to jump between those two items. And as you can see here, we have two different ones, two different permits that are open simultaneously, so we're able to jump back and forth between those and view the details on those costs directly in the case. And what's nice is you can also select multiple projects. So if you need to, you can jump back and forth between those projects as well, without having to do a lot of jumping back to the origin page and moving on. So we've got here jumping into a work order, not just a PLL case, so we can view the information associated with that as well.
Yeah, and that's, you know, the first one was also showing the contracts and how you show those different, you don't have anything broken out in estimated equipment, labor, materials, but you have a total, and that's coming from the line items, right? Even if you're using that technique. And here you can start to see the breakdown by the estimated equipment, labor, materials.
Yeah.
All right, so that kind of bridges over to related contracts and what we've been working on. It's been about being able to just highlight those contracts in that project page, which is a first, right? You could always, if you go to contracts in Office right now, you can link projects and contracts, but from the projects end, you can never see those contracts. And this is where we're starting to build that interdependence and that workflow as part of that. So what we're going to see in this quick video is actually how you can see where that related contracts panel is, but also you can see the different information that's a part of that. So this is similar to, there's about 5 contracts on this one, and as you could see from the costs or the financials panel, there's no breakout, but there is a total, and that's coming from the line items, the estimated, and then the actual costs. But you can see the breakdown here for the contracts. I could see the status, the amount, what type of contract it is, and that's all in that area. You can't interact much with it, so I'm just going to be very clear and upfront. You're not going to be able to open them, but remember, part of OpX long-term vision is also going to be how we start to bring in contracts and eventually also performance budgeting. So with that, obviously we only have 30 minutes for this presentation. Here's just a snapshot of the things that we've been working on for OpX. And as you could see, you know, there's things we didn't discuss. So you can do X, Y on projects, and that's part of that project query that we discussed. Very simple and basic field to just enter fiscal year, but obviously that sets us up long-term for what we want to do with some of that performance budgeting and then eventually contracts. So we've been busy at work on these items. Obviously, if you have any questions, want any follow-up on this, let us know, but we did want to leave some time for questions as part of this. Bridget, do we have any questions, or if you want to advance the slide, David, in case people want to also get our information there?
Yeah, so a few questions have come in. I think the first thing maybe you could clarify is this released yet? What version are you demoing? And if it's not a current release, when will it be available? You could probably say coming soon. But when is it going to be available as part of the beta program?
Yep, you stole my favorite phrase, Bridget, and I've been really practicing that. I know I was a broken record last conference, but yes, this is not a release version. It is coming soon. As you can see, a lot of work has gone into it, but definitely if you're interested, let us know, but we are diligently working on it and coming soon. Stay tuned.
Okay, thank you. You did get some claps as well from the city of O'Fallon and city of Alcoa. Just so you guys know, they wanted to know that awesome. They wanted you to know that they were clapping. Let's see. Is there information available about OpX on mycityworks.com at this point? I can see some stuff, but I think it might just be because I have extra permissions for kind of like those things that aren't necessarily available to the general Cityworks group yet.
There's not currently available since it is not released. We are diligently working on, our training group has been working on a course for it too. So look out for that coming soon. Once again, that's why we also have the safe harbor statement at the beginning. And as part of any work we do, we want to also include documentation and so on. So we will definitely have all that when it does actually eventually go out, right? And we want to make sure that we prepare all of our staff internally also to be able to handle questions. As mentioned, like the biggest piece that we want to make sure that all goes well is the permission side when we go into the migration that has to occur from the projects in Office to what is when it goes into OpX. And so we want to make sure that that migration piece is known by our clients before they go into OpX, and the requirements or prereqs to do that. But we'll be sure to do that. And feel free to follow up also.
We have a couple functionality related questions, both from the city of Alcoa. One is, can you add cost directly to the project?
Currently, no. It has to go through the actual work activity. So whether it's service requests, inspections, work orders, or PLL cases with the revenue side, but from the cost side, it has to be on the activities. And it's something we could definitely explore, and we'll probably follow up with you if this is Jesus that's asking the question.
It is.
We'll definitely follow up because, as I mentioned, when we go into the performance budgeting aspect, we want to make sure that we provide additional functionality.
And then I think we might have time for one more question. Also from Jesus, can you relate projects to other projects?
Great question. So currently you cannot. So right now the category would be the way to use. Obviously it's a custom code, so you could set that up. But relating projects to one another currently cannot be done. But I'm taking notes right now. So definitely we can look at how we can get further feedback from you on that and other clients also, and look at how we can work that into the roadmap, hopefully.
All right, well, thank you both very much. Wonderful presentation. I think with that, we're gonna go ahead and stop the broadcast so that everybody can move on to their next session.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.